Begin with a serious look at a long-standing problem, the lack of affordable housing and what New York City's biggest landlord, the New York City Housing Authority, is doing to fill thousands, yes, thousands of empty apartments in its portfolio. Brooklyn has been, and in many respects, continues to be perhaps the clearest expression of the Big Apple's tale of two cities, where affluent families, many of them newly arrived to the borough, flourish in multi-million-dollar homes, while nearly 300,000 residents make do in public housing.
Because right now, with the cost of living, rent is very expensive. And living in a private place is very hard.
As longtime Brooklyn resident Joyanne already knows, so is getting into a NYCHA apartment. In fact, the New York City Housing Authority, the city's biggest landlord, has a waiting list of more than 159,000 people.
If I could get into one of the NYCHA building, I would really appreciate it.
Our focus for this story, the empty apartments in NYCHA's sprawling portfolio. According to NYCHA data, by the end of March of this year, there were more than 6,200 apartments classified as vacant, more than 3,700 units classified as non-dwelling, and nearly 700 units classified as move-in or pre-selected for a future tenant. That's a total of about 10,654 empty NYCHA apartments. On behalf of working-class New Yorkers struggling to make ends meet during an ever-worsening housing crisis, we wanted to know why.
That's a lot of vacant apartments, especially homelessness going in New York City.
Can you understand how people at home are going to hear these big numbers in the face of this affordable housing crisis here in the city and say, you know what, this is frustrating, this just tracks with the notorious reputation for red tape and bureaucracy that NYCHA has? Can you understand where they're coming from when they hear these numbers?
I understand that housing in New York City is critical, and I understand the frustrations of New Yorkers living through a housing crisis because it affects their day-to-day life. It's incredibly stressful. However, I think what is important to understand is the critical state that NYCHA is in right now.
Daniel Green is NYCHA's Executive Vice President of Property Management. He recently took us on a tour of two different apartments in the pristine Cooper Bay houses in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. One that's in the process of being renovated, and another that's already finished and waiting to be rented.
We're doing major renovation in these apartments. We're doing lead abatement. We're doing asbestos abatement. We are taking care of legacy environmental contamination in our buildings right now, and this is really the opportunity to do it.
The number of empty units can vary by NYCHA development, and that's to be expected. But in our analysis of the agency's data, we found there are instances where the number of vacant units can spike depending on the neighborhood. For example, over at the Cooper Bay houses in the highly gentrified neighborhood of Williamsburg, there was an average of only about 10 units classified as either vacant or non-dwelling for the first quarter of this year. But here at the Marcy houses in Bed-Stuy, which could easily be argued is less gentrified than Williamsburg, and where there's a higher demand for affordable housing among low-income residents, there was a staggering average of 67 units classified as either vacant or non-dwelling for the first quarter of this year.
We want to really make sure that we're giving decent, safe, and sanitary apartments to people, and that takes a bit of time.
How much time? According to NYCHA's metrics website, between March of 2025 and 2026, it took the agency an average of 11.2 months, that's right, almost a year, to turn around a single apartment to get it ready for a new tenant. Would you be able to afford some of the market rate rents around this neighborhood if you were forced to move out of your NYCHA apartment?
Oh no, you will have to work like 3 jobs.
Green insists there's a concrete explanation for what on paper looks like a long, drawn-out process. He also cites all of the plastering and other specialty trade work often required to restore these units. And that's in addition to the mandatory lead and asbestos abatement.
We always are turning over apartments, so it's not worth sitting on like a warehouse of apartments.
The question is, will NYCHA ever get to the point where it's churning fast enough to meet the demand of New Yorkers like Joyanne, who works as a home health aide?
And as a single mother of 2, you know, it's very hard juggling work, groceries, bills.
Well, you already know this is an issue that we are going to keep a close eye on.